more informal informational meeting. This event was organized by the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection. You might hear us say DEP. That's what we mean when we say Department of Environmental Protection, DEP, same thing. My name is Ariana, and I'm the Environmental Justice Coordinator for the South Central region. And I'll talk more about that and my role in a bit. But I really wanted to start off by saying, again, thank you. I also wanted to mention that this meeting is being recorded by an individual with the township. If you do not consent to being recorded, we ask that you take that up with them. We will not be recording this. The Department of Environmental Protection is not recording this meeting, and we are not responsible for anything produced as a result of any recording that was not taken by DEP. For a point of clarity, tonight's meeting is a public meeting, not a public hearing. A public meeting is a little bit more informal than a public hearing. A public hearing requires a very strict kind of format where DEP can't really engage a lot and answer a lot of questions as much as they would in a public meeting like this tonight. So that's why we decided to go with this. If you would like to have a public hearing, if you would like to see us do that, you can request that, and we would, of course, consider any requests that we get. On all of the information that we have today, up here we have an agenda and a informational flyer, and all of that, there's ways that you can request a public hearing. So there's two ways. You can either email my colleague, Dom, right here, or you can also do that in writing and mail it in. So I just want to reiterate, any comments that you make today, they're not formally given to the DEP. To do that, you would need to be able to do the processes that we've outlined on the documents here. This is really just to answer questions, provide information, give background, rather than to submit formal comments. To do that, you need to follow the processes that we've laid out here in these documents. And if you have any questions or want any help with that, please feel free to reach out to any of us. We're happy to help you with that process. If you haven't already, like I said, I'm passing that clipboard around to sign in. Tonight we have two goals. First, we want to give some brief background about this project and how DEP evaluates such projects and their permits. This means a short presentation by our DEP staff on the permitting process, as well as folks from Pioneer Crossing Landfill, followed by as much time as we can possibly give for questions, because that's really our goal here, is to answer questions. When we move to the interactive part, we ask that folks try to limit themselves to 3 minutes per question. I will keep track of that to make sure it's all fair. If we get through everybody and can go back and circle around, we of course will do that, but we just want to make sure it's fair. For your information, we do have some people listening via video, which I have up here, so just as a heads up, that's also going on at the same time. I will go to them for questions as well when we get to that question answer portion. We're going to do it by raising hands. I ask that no one call out anything or anything like that. I will get to you if you raise your hand online. There's a raise hand function on the top bar. You can do that as well, and I will make sure I monitor that so we get folks there. The applicant, of course, has a clear interest in gaining approval from DEP for their project, which they have made substantial investments in to bring to this point. DEP staff, like me and my colleagues, work for the good of the entire Commonwealth. We regulate protections of our environment and natural resources, and we are not advocates for or against particular projects. So with that in mind, I would like to turn it over to my colleague, Dom, to talk a little bit about the permitting process. And just for peace of mind, my name is Ariana again, this is Dom, and this is Carrie. Our titles are out here, and then I also just wanted to quickly introduce the Pioneer Crossing Landfill folks. We have Brian Inch, right there, Bill Fox, Pat Mascaro, John March, Tim Carpenter, and Glenn Hoover. All right.
Thanks, Ariana. So I'll briefly go through DEP's permitting process for this type of application. I'll start with the current status of the application. So we received the application on April 26th of this year. The same day we held a local municipal involvement process meeting, which was between DEP, the applicant, host county, host municipality, and any adjacent municipalities, which was a similar meeting to this. Is for an opportunity for questions and information from the applicant about the project. The application was deemed administratively complete on May 29th of this year, which is a review step in our process to ensure it at least contains the necessary information, forms, attachments, maps, whether or not that information is sufficient to make a permit decision at that time, that it at least contains all that. So once it was deemed administratively complete, we moved into phase 1 review. So that's the current status. We've not issued yet a review letter, but that is the next step. So I'll go a little bit into the different phases of review here. Phase 1 review is an environmental assessment process, which is designed to ensure that environmental harms from the proposed project are outweighed by the benefits of the project, and that any remaining harms be mitigated. So that'll be a detailed analysis of all known and potential impacts of the project to the environment, public health, public safety, and any plans proposed by the applicant to mitigate those harms. That will culminate in a harms benefit analysis that we will produce and issue at the end of that phase of review, where remaining harms that aren't fully mitigated are balanced against the benefits of the project. Harms can be identified by the applicant in the application, by the public, by submitting comments to the department, and by the department based on our past history of the site and knowledge of the project details. So some examples of harms are environmental or social economic harms. Environmental can consist of things like nuisances such as noise, odors, surface water, groundwater impacts, soil contamination. And examples of social economic would be things like visual impacts, impacts to local businesses, traffic impacts. After these harms are identified, the applicant will have the opportunity to address the harms. If they don't do so outright in the application, it will be done in a series of review letters during the phase 1 review. And from their responses, we will determine if the harms are partially, fully, or not mitigated at all. And they'll also be classified by frequency, intensity, duration, and overall reach of the project. So if there are any partially mitigated harms or harms that are not mitigated at all, DEP will evaluate the social and economic benefits of the project to ensure the level of offset that they bring to the harms. And some examples of benefits include financial benefits to local economy, local businesses due to purchase of goods and services, additional employment, addressing a solid waste management need, and various host fees. We'll then balance the remaining harms to the benefits, and the final analysis must ensure that the benefits clearly outweigh the known and potential harms. Once it passes that step, we'll move into the technical review of the application. So that would be phase 2. And the technical review ensures that the design of the project meets the specific regulations and current technological standards for industry. So in the case of a landfill expansion, these things would include construction materials, slope stability, groundwater monitoring, leachate controls, erosion sedimentation, gas collection, among other things. If deficiencies are found in the technical review, we will again address those in technical review letters to the applicant and allow them opportunity to respond. Once all the identified deficiencies have been addressed, we can move on to make a permit decision. And I just want to reiterate, as Ariana mentioned, about how to submit public comment to us. We will accept public comments throughout the duration of the review. We had originally asked, I think, to submit by October 1st, just as we are into the phase 1 review, and it would help to have public comments as early as possible in our review process. So with that, I think I'll pass back to Ariana to describe the EJ aspects.
Thank you so much, Don. And yeah, I said before, my role with DEP is an environmental justice coordinator, and essentially, environmental justice is about acknowledging in blunt terms that often some of the most vulnerable populations are the most burdened by environmental impacts, and throughout the state, some communities are more burdened than others. This current policy that we have with environmental justice seeks to make sure that folks have a seat at the table when it comes to implementation of our environmental regulations. We call that enhanced public participation. It's my role to help implement that enhanced public participation policy with things like what we're doing tonight, a public meeting to bring the permit applicant and the community together to talk about this project, what it means, what the concerns are, what questions we have. Get to my next page here. Any DEP staff here tonight are happy to further clarify how the public can participate in commenting. All comments by email, regular mail are treated the same way. And I will say it again, this is not a formal public hearing, so if you would like to submit a formal public comment, or formal comment, my apologies, please do so by submitting that. When we get to questions, I think I said this before, we're going to do 3 minutes, and I will go by raising hands. We're going to ask that you please use the mic, just because we do have folks online, but I will proceed to passing the mic to PCL so that you all can talk a bit about your project.
Thank you. My name is Pat Mascaro. I'm the principal at the Pioneer Crossing Landfill, as well as JP Mascaro and Sons. We introduced our team here tonight. I'd like to recognize my wife for 47 years, Susan. I'd like to recognize Tim Carpenter, General Manager for 30 years at the Pioneer Crossing Landfill, Township resident. Joe Mascaro III, a member of the upper management team at JP Mascaro and Sons and Pioneer Crossing Landfill. I'd also like to thank very much the fact that in this audience tonight we have some current supervisors and past supervisors from Exeter Township. I think that's great, and I can say the same for the borough of Birdsboro. As you know, they are both our partners in this project. Landfills, by their very nature, are not very popular. They invoke strong emotions and feelings that really can lead sometimes to personal preferences and political overtones. But I must tell you, as the operator and owner of the landfill, representing our third and now fourth generation business, we really can't afford to go down that road. We have to put all our resources, all our focus, and all our attention on complying with the stringent, rigid regulations of the Pennsylvania DEP, which is one of the most stringent regulations in all of the country. They are definitely in the upper quartile. Now, you should know that we're not down there on 345 and 422 just because we're nice guys and we're really good friends in the community, which is really important to us. We're there because we can be there, because we have the land use issues that allows us to be there. So that's first and foremost. But that's only the beginning. To stay there, we must comply with the rules and the regulations of the Pennsylvania DEP. Our facility is open to them 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, unannounced. I would also extend that same invitation to any township residents that if they want to come down there for a tour or come down to see exactly what we do, you're welcome. One of the real advantages we have, I'll give you a background. We bought this landfill closed in 1985. It took 5 years to get open. We got opened by the Commonwealth Court. We received a permit in 1993. We received a new permit in 2003. We received another permit in 2013, and just last August we received a new 10-year permit. So we have a 10-year permit in place at the facility. We are modifying that permit. And what we're doing, and I'm going to speak from a layman's standpoint, is, and then I'll let Ryan Inch speak to precise technicalities. Really, we're not doing anything that we have been doing for the last 22 years since we formed the Landfill Advisory Board under the jurisdiction of Mr. Glenn Hoover, who raised his family and has lived for the past 60 years right adjacent to the Pioneer Crossing landfill. Mr. Hoover was a vehement opponent to the landfill before we took it over. I respectfully asked him if he would give me an opportunity to demonstrate through not just words but actions that Mascaro wanted to be a real friend in the community. And to his credit, he gave me that opportunity. And I think what we've achieved over the last 22 years is something to be really proud of. I don't believe there's a landfill in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania that has the kind of rapport that we have with the neighborhood. We operate that landfill as if we live there. Now, I can tell you, landfills, again, by their very nature, they're not popular. They're very necessary if we want to enjoy the benefits of a modern and progressive society. They're just as important as a sewer plant, a water plant, or an airport, or a really effective transportation system. Unfortunately, people want to put the can at the curb and they want it to disappear and they don't really give too much consideration to what occurs. But we're not a friend in the community by accident. We have rigid checks and balances at that facility. We have monitoring on a moment-to-moment, hour-by-hour basis, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We are very sensitive to the nuisance factors: noise, odor, dust, litter. Unfortunately, in the landfill business, you don't operate within the business, so you're subject to Mother Nature and you're subject to the human element. Both of them are not absolute situations or conditions. But what is absolute is the commitment of the Pioneer Crossing landfill to be a friend in the community. And if there are bona fide issues and we can identify that we are the cause of those issues, we're going to correct them. And I can tell you, anyone that comes with a contention that there's a problem, we do not debate it. We accept their contention as if it's fact, and then we do a due diligence to try to ascertain what is going on, why is it going on, and how can we curtail it. Now, this modification of our permit, it really doesn't change in any way. We're not seeking any additional volume. We're not seeking any new types of waste. We're not seeking to change the transportation routes. We're not seeking to change the number of trucks that ingress and egress the facility. We're basically doing what we've successfully been doing for 22 years. Really what we're doing is we're moving the Pagoda Motorcycle Club, their 20 acres, to a brand new multi-million-dollar 40-acre site 5 minutes away where there's absolutely no homes or any potential infringement. And we're adding part of their property for disposal into our property. So the bottom line is this application, in my mind, is about two things. First, the science and the engineering to comply with the precise requirements of the Pennsylvania DEP through sound engineering and the willingness and the ability to provide the necessary financial funds to execute the engineering plan. We have been planning this expansion. As I want the business to remain privately owned and go to the kids and the nephews and hopefully their kids. We've been planning this for 10 years. The monies are set aside. Now, when you operate a landfill, again, it doesn't matter if you're a nice guy. I suggest we're decent people. But that doesn't carry the day when you operate the landfill. And just to show you the importance of commitment, we have $16 million of liquid financial guarantees standing behind our daily conduct at that landfill to make sure that we operate it consistent with the laws, we manage it, we maintain it, and when particular sections reach their level, we close them. I can tell you, if you look through the materials that we have left for you, you will be amazed at what benefits are availed by the landfill. Without getting into all the benefits, we have a host agreement by statute that pays, the statute says it's $1 a ton. If you add up our benefits, we're paying about $5 a ton. When you add up everything we're doing, our permit mandated that we give $50,000 to charity, which would have been $850,000 over this last 17 years. We gave $14 million. I would say that's putting your money where your mouth is. And we do it not for recognition, because you won't see us taking pictures. We do it because God has been good to us, we can, and we should. But if there's any surplus dollars, our first obligation before we go to the community, which we obviously want to do, and we do it all the time, and I'm sure the township can substantiate that, both communities. Our first obligation is to the environmental applications at the facility, to the management, the men, and the machines, to make sure that we can coexist with the community. Because if we can't coexist with the community, it doesn't matter. Now, one of the greatest Achilles heel in the landfill operation is typically the transportation. We happen to be in a very enviable position as it relates to the transportation. There are 17,500 vehicles that go up and down each way on 422, and 8,000 that go down Route 345. That's on a daily basis. We average 140 to 165 trucks a day, Monday through Friday, 40 to 60 on Saturday, and we don't use a township road to get there. We want to earn this modification. We don't really want to be embroiled in personal preference or politics. We just want to do our job. You can never have enough landfills. The counties down here represent the greatest amount of the population. 93% of our waste comes in from Berks County and the local counties. 70% of the waste is coming into the other landfill from out of state. And the other landfill, and these landfills are much bigger than ours. So one landfill takes 4 times the waste, the other landfill takes 2 times the waste, and the one landfill is a county-owned facility. The other landfill that was taking a good portion of the county's waste is going to be closed here anytime. I actually heard it was going to be closed in July, but the department would know better than me. So I think I've said enough at this point. Again, I want to thank everybody for coming out. I think it's great. I'm really appreciative that the governing officials came out, because you represent the electorate, and I think that's great. And anybody again that wants to come down to landfill, or anyone that the DEP made it clear that you can direct a question to them and they'll respond. You can direct a question to me, and I assure you I will respond. And I will send a copy of my response to you, to the department, just to demonstrate good faith. But I thank you for your attention and allow me to express my thoughts. Thank you.
I'm going to speak real briefly. My name is Ryan Inch. I'm the Director of Engineering for the landfill, and I want to talk a little bit about the expansion. I want to talk about what it isn't and what it is. What it is not is we are not going towards Birdsboro. There is no expansion on the eastern side here. We are not going towards 422 to the north of the landfill. The expansion, what it is 41.15 acres on the west side of the landfill towards Red Lane Road. 21.17 acres of the expansion is already on property that is currently permitted for landfill use and represents the infrastructure that's on the landfill now. This area down here, this is 21.17 acres, and then a small sliver up here. 19.9 acres of new disposal area will be created from the pagoda area. So the expansion is moving not towards Birdsboro, but away from Birdsboro in this area here. This expansion here is a very efficient design, and it will provide for meeting the community's disposal needs through the year 2059. It's a significant expansion with regards to meeting community needs. And as Mr. Mascaro said, there's no increase in daily trucks, no increase in daily tonnage, no change in hours, and most of it, again, is on permanent property. And that's really all I have to say.
Good evening. My name is Bill Fox. I've been with the company for 30-some years. I've been working with Pat Mascaro since we were both puppies, and we're not puppies anymore. We presented to you and put on your seat some detailed information about the landfill itself, some background information. We put in, as Pat said, this project will really have no change in almost anything. Permanent tonnage, no change. The types of waste handled, no change. The hours of operation, no change. Transportation routes we don't use, the trucks coming to this facility do not use township roads. And that's been historical for the last 23 years. The traffic volumes will not change. We have a host community agreement with Exeter Township. The first one was entered into on October 30th of 2000. This handout shows the significant economic, social, and environmental benefits that have been provided to the township over the years. It also shows the new benefits and additional benefits that will be provided as a result of this project. One of the benefits, which we didn't have to make at this time, but we have made, is $1 million contribution to Exeter Township for the new fire station. Good thing about our facility and this project, we've had a 20-some year dress rehearsal. We've been here under our expansion permit of 2002, which, by the way, was the first permit in the state, at least I believe, to undergo DEP's new strict harms benefit regulatory standard. And under that standard, from a layman's point of view, the applicant, after DEP conducts a review, the applicant has to demonstrate that the benefits from the project clearly outweigh any known or potential harms after mitigation measures are considered. As I said, we've been through that detailed process once, and we'll have to go through it in connection with this application. But the advantage that the community has and that the surrounding municipalities have is they know who we are and they know how we operate. And I think, I'm not going to go through it all because it's in here in the handout, our record speaks for itself. Pat mentioned the $16 million in guarantees. Just so you know, we're not holding that $16 million. DEP is. And that guarantees that the facility will be closed in accordance with the regulation. We believe they don't even need it because we're good at meeting our word and doing what we say we're going to do. But they have the guarantee that's in place to protect the public. Also, it's important, I think, for the public to know, and you can look at this map, it says permanent disposal area map, that the red outlined area of that map is our existing permit area. That area is already permitted. And if you look at the yellow area where the proposed expansion of the disposal area will go, it's not west of the landfill, it's not east of the landfill. It's right in the middle of the landfill that already exists. So essentially, we're not expanding, proposing to expand in the north, to the west, or to the east. So it's a natural. So we feel very strong about our application. We're here to answer any questions. And Pat, he didn't say it, but I know he always does say, no questions are low blow. Whatever you want to ask, ask. And if we don't have the answer and don't have it at our fingertips, we'll give it to you. Because we fully support the environmental justice aspect of this application. I think if you look at what we've done over the years, we were ahead of the environmental justice portion of this application. We do everything we need to do to be transparent, and we're proud of how our facility operates and how it runs. Thank you.
Before the questions start, I want to make one point that I really overlooked. If you take away Mascaro and the landfill, we still employ a couple hundred people in the county. We are the largest landowner and taxpayer independent of the landfill in Exeter Township. We are the largest landowner and taxpayer in the borough of Birdsboro. And I believe we are the largest landowner in the entire Berks County. And if we're not, we're on the first fingers, one hand. Thank you.
Okay. So you've heard from Pioneer Crossing Landfill, you've heard from Pennsylvania DEP, and now's the portion where we turn it over to you for questions. Like I said, I ask that you raise your hand. Folks online, please use the raise hand feature if you have a question. Yeah, we're going to start here. I'm going to give you the microphone, and I just ask that you pass it back, just so folks online can hear.
Good evening. My name is Christopher Spohn. I'm the chairman of the Board of Directors for the Berks County Planning Commission. We, as a board, have already voted and have a letter to DEP recommending to not expand the landfill. But we have to tell you, it has nothing to do with engineering, quality of engineering, amount of benefit to the community. That's not the discussion that we had. Ours was one of the current zoning ordinances for Exeter Township state that because of this expansion, and based on the original landfill numbers that you had, acreage you had up there, that the expansion can be no more than 50% of the original land area. And with this expansion, it'll be somewhere around 400%. The second thing that we found was that according to the county's comprehensive plan, this area again is an area that was not designated for landfill use. It was for light industry and expansion in a different way. And then also that with the solid waste plan that was put in place back in May of I want to make sure I get this right, dated May 23rd, 2024, we found at that time there was more than enough landfill usage for Berks County for the next 30 years. So again, we have known, from a county perspective, as far as the planning commission goes, we can't say yes or no. We make a recommendation, and it's taken as if everyone else's recommendation. We do not have any question or question the integrity and the work that's being done at the landfill. We just took that purely from what are the ordinances, what are the long-term plans, and do they fall within those constraints? Thank you.
Did you have a specific question though?
No, I just felt that because my name is at the bottom of that letter, it needed to be clarified when someone says, well, the county doesn't want it. That's not true. The county recommended no, but because of ordinances and long-term planning, we did our due diligence and took a logical look at the legislation that's already in place.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else have a question? I'm so sorry. Did you want to respond? It wasn't a question, so I.
Oh, I could respond to that next, please, if I may.
Again, Bill Fox from Pioneer Crossing. I, just so the public and the DEP is fully aware of it, I personally responded to Mr. Spohn's letter to the Berks County Planning Commission on July 23rd. I'll get into those responses in a second. One of the things Mr. Spohn mentioned that under the County Act 101 plan, there's enough disposal for certain sites have submitted capacity agreements. This board and DEP, and as I indicated in my letter, and the public should know, The county plan specifically says, and I'm going to read from the plan. By the way, the Pioneer Crossing landfill receives more Berks County waste than any other landfill in the area. If you look at the county's New Act 101 plan, you'll see that Pioneer Crossing received in the last 5 years roughly 93,000 tons of municipal waste from Berks County. The next closest landfill was the Western Berks landfill, and they received 79,000. They're going to close in a couple months. So they handled 26%, we handled 24%. They won't be around. The other landfill, one of the other landfills, there's 4 in the county, is owned by Delaware County. It's not owned by any municipality, it's not owned by any entity that's part of the community. It's owned by Delaware County. Their primary interests are for Delaware County. And the last landfill is the biggest in the Commonwealth, and they basically have the largest volume. They handle roughly 15 to 17% of Berks County waste, but their primary waste source is from out of state. As it relates to zoning, which Mr. Spohn referenced, I addressed that in detail in my letter. Zoning was an issue in October 2000, under our host community agreement with Exeter Township. It was specifically addressed in that letter, and I'm not going to go into the long history, but there was question whether there was really any zoning issues, and the parties decided to resolve any potential zoning or land use issues, and they entered into a host community agreement which provides the township and the community with significant social, economic, and environmental benefits. In 2019, on September 9th of 2019, there was an amendment to that host community agreement. And in that amendment, again, it referred back to the old agreement and any potential zoning issues being resolved. And in that agreement, the Exeter Township supervisors, by unanimous vote, voted to support this expansion application. That agreement has been submitted to DEP, it's part of the record. Our neighboring community, the borough of Birdsboro, which is across the river, they entered into an agreement some years ago, a joint cooperation agreement with our landfill, where they received additional benefits and protections, and they get a host fee, and we're not even required to pay Birdsboro a host fee. Matter of fact, I was the one that made up the name. I called it a proximity impact fee. I didn't know what to call it. So that's what we called it. And they've been receiving that all these years. They'll continue to receive that, and there's other additional benefits. They too, with their board, voted to support this expansion application. And with respect to the facility not being designated as in the county's comprehensive plan, you just hold on 1 second. I responded to Mr. Schoen's letter on excuse me. Well, I'll refer to it from memory. I responded to that letter on July 23rd. And with respect to the area where this landfill is going to be located, it's in an industrial area, and this landfill has always been and still is. Part of it's in the general industrial area, part of it's in the limited industrial area. Each has been permitted by DEP, and each has been approved by Exeter Township. And with respect to the Berks County Comprehensive Plan, the section that I responded to and that Mr. Schoen referred to specifically says in this industrial district, quarries and landfills are provided for. And we've been there for the last 20-some years. So I think the best thing is that I think we adequately, and I'm not suggesting the Berks County Planning Commission acted in bad faith in any way, shape, or form, and I appreciate that that body recognizes that we operate a good facility. But I think I addressed all his questions, and I hope I addressed them here. Pat Mascaro has something to say.
With all due respect to the planning commission, I think there's many businesses and industry and municipalities in Berks County that would be alarmed that the Pioneer Crossing landfill is not being considered in their long-term planning. The biggest and the best accounts, employers in this county come to the Pioneer Crossing landfill. And we have the premier recycling facility in the country, not in Berks County, not in Pennsylvania. And we've received national recognition. We received multi-millions of dollars in grants from the biggest corporations in America. And there is no recycling facility without a landfill. There is no incinerator without a landfill. There's no conference center without a landfill. Anytime you can have a landfill that's strategically situated from a transportation standpoint and is not infringing on the community from a noise, odor, dust, and litter standpoint, you should have a parade for that facility. You could never have enough landfills because the landfill avails the municipalities and the industry and the commerce of economy, efficiency, and environmental stability. Thank you.
Pat, I just one thing. Sorry.
One thing I missed with respect to the new County Act 101 plan update, I'll just read a small portion of this plan. The plan is, it says, the plan revision continues to allow waste generated within Berks County to be disposed of at any permitted disposal facility. Berks County does not flow control waste. What they did here is and there's other language similar to that in this plan. What they did here is they made sure they had enough capacity for the next 10 years, but the plan says that people can dispose of Berks County waste at any permitted facility. And as I already reiterated, we're the largest recipient of Berks County waste.
I believe you had a question, sir.
Oh, here, I'm the mic.
So, Vincent Bianconi, Exeter resident. I just had a question. So when you're going to get in letters from people that are going to be for or against or whatever, do you do any background history or check on like who the person that you're getting it from? Because a lot of it comes down to character. And when Pat took over the landfill, and back in 2018, I was on the board as supervisors. My biggest thing was to talk to Glenn Hoover. I was told by everybody, talk to Glenn Hoover about the Mascaro and the Pioneer Crossings, and I did. And I'll tell you what, it really comes down to character. So my question is, when it comes in, you have a sitting supervisor here, David Hughes, in my opinion, who will send in a letter and has been sitting here but doing nothing but laughing, smirking, and giving stink eye to Pat and stuff. No,
There's no cause for personal attack in this meeting. Ask him to sit down and shut it down.
Hey, can both of you
Sure.
please continue?
That's the kind of people
Anyway,
that
so my question, I
come
just want to
up
know
with
if you're just doing any checks of who's going to be sending in the stuff, that's all.
Unbelievable.
All right.
Got your hit man
Hey,
there.
hey, please take a seat.
Oh, I wanted to get on camera.
I
I have it documented.
Unbelievable.
Just
Yeah, I'll just say,
Unbelievable.
generally all comments are considered equally across the board. We'll take every comment into consideration, from citizen to a group, township, municipality.
Sure. Appreciate it.
Didn't help you guys at all.
All right, other questions?
Can I help you?
Hey, can we please, that's not a conversation over here.
Thank you, sir.
My name's Alan Harris Sr., and I live in Burrsboro. I moved into the borough in 1994, and I've watched as the landfill has increased in volume capacity. I've seen the mountain that has formed of all the waste that is disposed of there. I didn't stand up to badmouth Mr. Mascaro and his business or any of those who were employed by him. What I did want to ask, though, is I saw that there's potential for increase of harms, benefit, and things of those nature. I think you said you created the fund for Birdsboro because you didn't know how to address the impact on our community. Am I correct? PIT, you said something?
Are we better here?
One second, let me pass the mic. Was that
I'm
good?
not done the question, but
I'll let him answer and I'll come
yeah,
back
thank
to
you,
you.
thank you.
Back in 2002, when we got the permit expansion, the statute that Mr. Mascaro referred to doesn't require any host fee to be paid to any municipality other than the host municipality. We agreed to pay a per ton fee to the borough of Birdsboro because of their proximity to the landfill, and I call it the proximity impact fee.
All right. Here you go, sir.
Thank you. I thought I understood you correctly. I just want to make sure I did. And I know the borough, as a former council member in Birdsboro, I know that the Birdsboro has benefited from that forward thinking. And I think it definitely shows some integrity on your part to think that even though you don't have to, you still saw it as the right thing to do, and we certainly appreciate it in Birdsboro. My biggest concern, however, is the red section at the bottom of the map, right above general industrial section there. What would that be? Yeah, it says general industrial. I can't even read that.
I believe that's on the map back there, actually.
Can you read that?
Oh goodness, my eyesight's not as good either.
I'm wearing glasses and can't read.
General industrial, this is also general industrial right here.
Yeah, that's what I was referring to. This
Lincoln Road, I think.
is that Lincoln Road?
It's down here. There'll be no landfill in here.
Okay, I saw the red. I wanted to ask if there would be landfill in there. Okay, that's.
No disposal in that area. In fact, we have a big sign there because we thought that people might get the wrong impression. The landfill is really moving. It's half of it is staying where it is, and the other half is moving west, and ultimately it all goes west. There's nothing south, there's nothing north, and there's nothing east. And you should know that proximity impact fee was our gesture. We were not asked for that fee. We made a determination because of the geographical situate of Birdsboro that as a matter of fundamental fairness and basic decency, they should share in some well-being of the landfill. And also we went beyond the call of duty. If you check with other people in the borough, we have participated in unlimited projects, and presently we're involved in a major memorial for the veterans in Birdsboro. When they move that train station down there, it's going to be something really first class that we're involved in there.
That's pretty much most of my question. I just want to make sure that I understood the other section that described the possible increase of environmental impact for those people who are listed as recipients as of now. You said that if there were changes, that there might be chances for increased amounts donated to those regions if there's additional impact.
Well, I think
I'll move the mic around.
Thank you.
obviously running a landfill, everything is on a formula, and if you take those materials home and digest it, you'll see we're going over and beyond what is really being called for. But if we have a surplus, we will share them for worthwhile causes with our neighbors in the local vicinity of the landfill. But what I had previously said is our first obligation, if there's a surplus, is to put it in environmental applications, the employees, the machinery, and equipment, because if we can't coexist with the community, this is all new.
Absolutely.
For instance, you see the black covering over the landfill?
Yes.
That's a temporary cap. That's not mandated by law, and that's $1 million plus application, but it's effective in controlling gas management and leachate management and odor control. And if you're really interested, take a ride in the landfill. You'll see we're doing it anywhere and everywhere we can, because we can't impact negatively on the community if we want to be there for the long haul. And this is a family business. And if we can't empty those trash trucks, what are we going to do? We can't take it to our competitors that own the landfill. So we have a real vested interest to do things right. And we want to do things right. We want to be a bona fide friend in the community.
Did you have any other questions, sir?
I just want to speak to what he said.
And then we'll have to move on afterwards.
Understood. I want to thank you for that information. It did answer and address the concerns and questions I had. And again, I want to thank you guys for, when you're dealing with toxic issues and DEP, all the things that we are dealing with in Pennsylvania, the reason I'm so concerned about it is because I grew up in Stowe, and we know that there was a waste management location down there, and I'm aware of some of the impact that had over the years. So I just want to be mindful of our community to try to be thoughtful about where we're going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. And
Thanks for the pat on the back. Appreciate it.
I believe you came in afterwards, after we said, but I just want to make sure we reiterate, this is a public meeting, so any comments that you have, this is not a formal comment period. If you have any comments, we have documents up here that tell you how to direct formal comments to DEP. Also, this meeting is being recorded by a township individual. It's not being recorded by DEP, and we are not responsible for anything produced as a result of that. Any other questions? Yep, I will bring myself back first, so you guys are pointing at each other.
Go first.
Okay, you're going first.
I will stand up.
My name is Steve Leskey. I've lived in Birdsboro. I had 2 businesses in Birdsboro for 37 years. I served on council for 10 years. I've been here. My wife and her family were born and raised in Birdsboro. We knew what the landfill was like prior to Mr. Mascaro and his family and Pioneer Crossing taking ownership of it. It was, at that time, a dump. We've seen the transformation that's occurred that has made it look so much better than it ever did. We've also been able to have benefit from Mr. Mascaro. He mentioned a number of different things, but he didn't mention all of them. So I'm going to do it. Not all of them, but a few of them. For example, Birdsboro signed a cooperation agreement, and Birdsboro went from $1.10 a ton to $1.30 a ton. With that, Birdsboro also received $150,000 up front. I look at the donations that are up there. When all he had to do was give $850,000 over and above harm's benefit. He gave $14 million over the same amount of time. From Birdsboro's perspective, we got a new roof on the community center. We got a new roof on the fire company. We got a new roof on the library. We got a grocery store. We hadn't had a grocery store. Mr. Myers, he got petition signed. We got a grocery store that is never had for a long, long time since the IGA closed. And that's all because he lives in the community, he cares about the community, and as a resident of Birdsboro, as a former Birdsboro council person, I fully support this project because, to be honest, I don't know what we do without the harms we get and the benefits we get from the project that he's working on. Thank you.
Is it okay if I move on to the next question? Okay, I figured as much because it wasn't, here we go.
Hello, my name is Mark Scott. I was county commissioner for 24 years, recently retired. I have some observations I'd like to make. And I'm not here to endorse or to oppose the proposed expansion from Mr. Mascaro's firm. But I hope that DEP will be applying a uniform standard when it evaluates the varying permits, applying them to Berks County situated landfills. As you know, we have 4, one may be about to close. We have one owned by Delaware County, it was referenced earlier, that is proposing, I think, in the near future, a major permit modification. I've been involved at various times in fighting with all these people, and I don't have a preference for one over another. But I think in fairness to the applicant, they should all be treated equally. It seems to me the harm's benefit is an inherently political evaluation. It's entirely subjective. How much is a ruined picnic because someone can't stand to be outside because their home is too close to a landfill that smells. And I'm not saying Mascaro's landfill smells now. But when you look at the other permit that you're going to evaluate, look at, for example, in a comparative way, look at what Conestoga Landfill did. They sued Berks County to get out of paying a legitimate host fee of $4 a ton. I helped to negotiate that fee, and they tried to get out of it. Mr. Mascaro's not trying to get out of his fee. You talk about regional impacts. It's true, as Mr. Fox pointed out, there is regional impact when a landfill is close to a municipal boundary. And so Birdsboro benefits from this landfill. If you can call it a benefit, there are obviously harms, and of course they're subjective. But at least Birdsboro is getting something. Ask yourself if Oldie Township gets anything from Delaware County. Nothing. And Earl Township sitting on, last I saw, something like $60 million. How much is enough? Is it a benefit to add more millions to 60 million? I mean, and then let's take a look at Delaware County's intention to bring more uncombusted trash in the name of environmental justice out of the city of Chester, when everyone knows that the emissions from incinerators are much less than from landfills. There's fugitive emissions, and then there's the flares that don't anywhere near as well combust the methane and other gases that are escaping from a landfill compared to an incinerator. So, as between all these landfills, I hope you'll keep in mind who's, in relative terms, treating the public better. To me, it's look at Boyertown suffering from all those trucks that come from Delaware County. They're trying to get out of paying for a more environmentally responsible form of disposal, which is to combust the waste. And again, Berks County has more landfills than it needs. It's something like 8 to 10 times the capacity it needs. All I would say is, since I'm out of office now and I appreciate everyone's input, treat all the applicants on the same standard and take a look at how they impact their communities, how they treat their communities. That's what I have to say. Thank you.
I'll just respond briefly to that. I think from our perspective, we strive to be equal across the board and perform these reviews, per the policies and regulations. I'm not going to speak to other landfill projects at this venue, but you can ensure that we'll take all the facts into account, all the public comments into account. And I think on that note, again, I'll suggest, I know we have a lot of people who'd like to just, be heard here today, but if you'd like it to be officially heard by DEP, please send us an email or a letter so we'll have that on record and, take that into consideration during the review process.
And like I've said a few times, the documents that say the two methods that you can do that are right up here. So, and we also are here to answer any questions with that as well. Any further questions? I'm going to look online too. Oh, sorry, Mr. Mascaro.
If there's no questions, I sincerely want to thank everyone who showed interest.
We got one.
will you go first? Yeah, Pat, I do. I'll come up here, Dave. I have several. Brian, this is probably for you to start with, if you don't mind. I'm Jack Pyho, first off. I'm a resident of Exeter. I'm also on the Board of Supervisors, but this is basically my personal comments or questions, okay? Not on behalf of the Board of Supervisors. Brian, if you recall, at the Planning Commission, you're also planning on a truck facility right along 422. Could you point that out? I know that's not part of the permit process. I think I'm correct on that. That's not part of the permitting process that you're going through now. But with the residents that are here, could you point out a little bit and just give a brief overview, because you are going to have trucks that are going to be going on township roads.
answer this very quickly.
Is that okay to ask?
We are really here to talk about this permit, however, this is,
I think it's
if you're
a
gonna.
simple answer.
Okay.
So the terminal that we're looking at constructing, you can't actually see it on this map, it is up here. But all the trucks that would be going to the facility would not be using Red Lane Road. They would be utilizing the same roads that they come to now. They will actually be using less township roads because at the current time they're going to East Neversink Road and through that community. Where the terminal will be situated, they won't have to go to that side of Exeter Township. They'll leave the facility, go up 345, 422, right into the terminal.
That's an excellent question. That terminal is replacing the terminal in the township and replacing a very large trucking operation. The motivating factor, Jack, to move was the fact that the trucks before, and I think Michelle would be aware of this, was a real problem when the bridge went down, is we were going through literally settlements. And that was the motivating factor to make this move, to really put the trash operation where the recycling center was, where the bar area was, where the landfill was, and to make it better for the people, not to have to contend with trash trucks, especially when we go out, when the school buses go out, and a lot of times we come home when the school buses come home.
Sir, did you have another question?
Oh, yeah, I do. Yeah, thank you, Brian, because I thought that at some point they would come down a township road, but you're correct when you described that, because you did the same in the planning commission. They will stay on state roads. Yeah, thank you. 90%, I made a comment here, wrote it down. Did I write this down correctly, guys? 90% of the trash in the Pioneer is Berks County trash. Do I have that number wrong? And I was going to ask, do you have a breakdown for Exeter Township?
I don't have a breakdown for Exeter Township. We are the largest recipient of Berks County waste, and that's obviously going to pretty much double with Western Berks going down. 93% of the waste comes from Berks County and the adjoining counties, whereas one of the other landfills, 70% of their waste is coming from out of state. We're basically a local operation, a local regional operation.
Okay.
But it is a fact, and that was what I was a little befuddled with the planning commission. We literally have long-term contracts in place with major Berks County communities. Muhlenberg, Wyomissing, Sinking Spring. We have plants, major employers in the county that operate 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And really, the only way their operations can do that is because of our facility being so close to them.
That was my next question.
One more, and then we'll move on, and then if you have more and nobody else, we'll come back to you. How about
Okay.
that?
Brian, I think this might be back to you. I said a couple, 20, if I heard right, the landfill it's not permitted right now out to 2059, but will it be filled up? Is projected 2059? I don't know if that was your question, Brian, or if it was Bill's, but.
The proposed expansion will allow the facility to continue taking waste at the current rates through 2059, the proposed expansion.
Okay, and the initial permit, though, expansion is 10-year.
The
You have to
department,
renew the permit then after 10 years.
right, the department issues permits in 10-year increments, so every 10 years they issue a renewal.
Okay.
And, sir, I want to make sure we're being fair, so I'm going to ask anybody else if they have any questions, and then if not, we can come back to you. How about that? Sound good? All right, any other questions we have out here?
I have a clarification for Jack,
Yeah.
if you don't mind.
Yeah.
So Jack, you asked about what portion is Exeter's. We get reports periodically, monthly, that tell us what Exeter dumped there and where some of this trash came from other states like New Jersey, New York, Delaware. And the township has approved a maximum 400,000 tons of garbage in our backyard. And we only get $2.35 per ton. It's about $930,000. And there are, and by the way, what I'm talking about right now, most of this is just my opinion, in case somebody wants to sue me. But the harms benefit analysis, as Mr. Scott alluded to, becomes a political tool. Because the direction of this money is going to people, because if you complain or you don't like what's going on, you might get a donation. It's my opinion, but you can look at these millions and millions and millions of dollars that are being dispersed among all kinds of people in the community and surrounding the community. And Exeter Township's part of it, maximum is $930,000. That's all it is. 400,000 tons a year dumped in our backyard. Environmental laws and concerns and awareness has increased dramatically from the time when Mr. Pfeiffer first opened up what someone referred to as a dump. And I question the harms benefit analysis and the way that the money is allowed to be distributed. I think the community that has a dump in their backyard should decide where those benefits go, not the person that's providing the donations. We should be able to direct that so that we can hopefully make sure that there's no possibility that they could be politically motivated. Now, I just have one question for these guys over here. Is there any idea of when this dump is ever going to close, and how far will it expand? Will it take up like a huge, gigantic portion of Exeter Township someday? Maybe 100 years when I'm rotting in my grave? Is it still, you're still going to be dumping garbage in our backyard and profiting? Because millions and millions of dollars I see being thrown all over the place. Thank you.
All right. Yeah, so how about we answer the first question and then.
You should know in 2019, when the amendment to the host agreement occurred, and Mr. Biancotti was involved with some other people representing the township looked at what other landfills were paying. We are paying a very, very substantial amount. The law mandates $1 a ton. We're probably paying closer to $5 a ton. And that doesn't take into account that we give a $100,000 a year building on Route 562 to the fire company. It doesn't take into account that we build $1 million dog park for the community. It doesn't take into account that we're writing checks every year for a minimum of $30,000 to the police department, which is independent of the harms benefit. We have no control over that $1 million. That's determined by the township where that goes. All these other contributions are independent of that. The fact that we pick up bulk removal from all 8,000 homes every spring. A bulk item today costs $30 to $50 an item. We send a truck to the house every year. It's worth a minimum of $100,000. We gave a property that I was renting for $65,000 a year to the police department and gave them $50,000 cash to put berms in on the property. It's not in the host agreement. It's a gesture of good faith from the community. If anything, we're paying a premium. I looked into it the other day. Before we do business at that landfill, we're paying taxes and fees at the level we're doing business of $400,000 a month. I don't know of any other business that does that. And the landfill business is like every business. If you run it properly, you can make a responsible profit. And if you don't run it properly, you don't. So it's not a gold mine, it's not a toll booth, but it is a means for us to keep our third and fourth generation business going. And I'm proud of what we have been able to accomplish in the community. And as it relates to the long term, on the other question, do you want me to answer that?
I believe you will say something about harms benefit, and then we'll pivot to that next question.
Yeah, just to go back to the harms benefit process. So as described earlier, harms can be identified by the public, by DEP, and by the applicant. So again, we encourage public comment to be submitted. That review process as far as determining the extent of litigation to harms and then determining the extent of outside benefits to cover what is not mitigated. Again, we've got policies and regulations that guide us there, and to be specific as far as a host agreement and things like that, we're going to reference the existing host agreements, in our review, and I think the development of those agreements are outside of what we're reviewing here, but we're going to take the current agreements into consideration during our review.
All right, and then I'll go back to you to answer that other question now. All right.
Yeah, I think it's important to note that we just received a new 10-year permit in August, so we're amending that permit. And we can forecast for the next 29 and a half years that we will need to be at that landfill. Okay, landfills are not going to go away. We are building in Birdsboro, it's in a design stage right now for an additional 145,000 square foot recycling building, because we want to minimize what we're actually putting in the landfill. We want to make sure all the materials that go into that landfill are landfill materials, not recyclables. And that's being added to 150,000 square foot of recycling building capability that we have locally. Now, it's no secret that we own land all around our facility, but I can't forecast beyond the next 30 years what is going to be the prevailing technology. So, to answer the question, we're here tonight to be educational and informative, to earn another permit that we earned in 1993, 2002, 2013, 2023, and we want to dot our I's, cross our T's, and earn the right to keep our family business moving forward. Thank you.
Okay, do we have any other questions from the audience or online? I'll pass to you if nobody else has anything. I just want to be fair and make sure everybody's getting there.
Somebody else can talk. This might be back to you, Brian. The engineer in me, I do work at other landfills with compressing the methane and using it for power generation. Have you considered power generation?
So at Pioneer Crossing Landfill in October 2005, we actually started taking the landfill gas and burning it and creating electricity. So, and that's how the gas has been used for almost 20 years now. It's not flared, it's used to make electric that goes into the grid. Since then, and starting sometime late next year, we're actually going to stop burning the gas to make electric and make it pipeline quality. And it will actually be going back into the pipeline to be used into the grid. So in the next 18 months, there won't even be combustion of gas at the landfill.
Do you have another question, sir?
Yeah, I got one more.
All right.
Thank you, Brian. Yeah, that's what I was hoping because that's what I've been involved in is cleaning the gas, we'll call it. Cleaning it and then putting it back into the pipeline and all. So I appreciate the comment. And you did answer, or Pat did, about expanding I had that question on the recycling facility, or there are plans to expand it. The answer to that, I know that's not part of the permit, but it was good. This is a general question, have you all ever considered an incinerator? Yeah, and that's my last one.
We have considered incineration in the past, primarily because we had the good fortune of owning properties that were zoned for an incinerator, and we know, like all environmental disposal project, a lot of time the facts and the truth get superseded by a lot of innuendo and gossip, and so having that zoning would have been a big advantage for us. But as a company, we made a determination that although there's certainly benefits of the combustion process, that it's not self-sustaining, because you're going to end up with 27 to 33% of ash residue, which is going to be a residue that comes in, a waste with greater concentrations, metallic concentrations, and then there's a portion of the waste which isn't combustible. So the long and the short of it is it still depends on the landfill. So the landfill's not gonna go anywhere. If you're recycling, you're still gonna have a 12 to 20% contamination rate. If you're composting, you're still gotta get rid of the plastic and the materials that are blowing the air into the wind piles. Also, when I look at incineration, and you know, I'm not an expert in this area, but typically with a landfill, your issue is going to be to make sure you're not degrading groundwater. With an incinerator, your issue is going to obviously be with your emissions and also with that ash residue disposal. So again, we don't get the benefit of some multi-billion dollar corporation that can hide behind its mistakes. We learned the hard way. We learned between, Michelle was instrumental in getting us on the right path. From 1990 to 2000, we as a company learned what it took to be able to operate as a friend in the community and modern sanitary landfill. We grew up on the back of trash trucks. We were experts in that. But we had to learn what it took, because what I realized is, in anything in life, if you get 90%, it's good. If your kids come out with 90%, it's an A. If you own a hotel and it's occupied 90%, it's an A. If the steel mills utilize it 90%, it's an A. I learned if you score 99 in compliance, it's an F. And I learned that the hard way. But I will tell you, and what I wanted to say before we got into additional questions, I'm really grateful for the spirit of fundamental fairness and basic decency that's in this room today. I really appreciate what the commissioner said. It's really refreshing, because operating a landfill is really difficult. You have to really be committed to it. You have to meet all issues head on. You got to be prepared to do the right thing, to spend money instantaneously, and you have to be able to deal with the emotions and the sentiments of people, whether they're rooted in sound foundation or not. You have to contend with it. I welcome anybody to go to that landfill and spend some time there and see Tim Carpenter and his people. I spend 4 out of 5 days at that landfill. I actually go to the working phase to watch it happen, because I want to make sure, as it relates to noise, odor, dust, and litter, we're not infringing on anybody. And we mean that sincerely. We have residences in Berks County. I have one of the best residences in Exeter Township. I got 2 brothers that live nearby in Union Township. We're part of it. We're part of the infrastructure here. We're not some Arizona-based or Houston-based corporation that's coming in there filling that land up so that they can get out of town and get their money. We have the right to increase that volume under our host agreement. We do not want to increase it, because we proved to ourselves that we can operate this with our arms around it and be a friend in the community. We have an excellent rapport with the neighborhood. And there's nobody that can speak about the neighborhood than Mr. Hoover. Exeter Township is huge. It's 25 square miles. It's 137 road miles. We take up this much of it. We don't even use a township road. But Mr. Hoover, he's been raising his family and living right next to it for 60 years.
Correct.
And I think he could really tell us how we're doing down there.
And I will. I will. You have it, Mike?
I'm a living example of what can be done when you work together. When Pat took the landfill over, it was a disaster. I caught the devil from numerous people in the township, my neighbors, even some of my relatives. And I thought that this is really a challenge. Pat worked the landfill. Now, you gotta just picture this. You've been fighting with somebody for 5 years. Now you gotta shake hands and buy ice cream. Now, you got a hell of a makeup to make things work. And he said it right when he said he only asked for trust. And man, after you've been at war for 5 years, you say, man, oh man. And I did, I placed my trust in him and he never left me down. It's like being able to knock on somebody's door and tell them something's wrong, can you see what you can do about it? Or you gotta be afraid and you gotta wait, you gotta send a notice in or whatever. It's remarkable what he's done. And it just goes to show, if you work together, you can accomplish it. I never dreamed I see the machines that are running that burn the methane gas. The previous owner used to blow that in your face. So when you had somebody in your yard, you had a little picnic or something, you had a choke and go in the house. I mean, it's a wonderful, and he's been very lucky. He's hired great people, good people you can work with, you can talk. May not always agree with them, but I mean, they address the issues. And I'm really, 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 I would say for anybody, to tour the landfill and see how it's run. It is amazing, and I'm very, very thankful for it. Thank you.
Do we have any further questions? Anybody online? Are there no further questions?
Just two things. Number one, we submitted and had available for this public meeting a handout. I'd ask that the DEP make that part of the record if they would. And secondly, you'll see this map, it's before you. Pat mentioned our company, the landfill, owns a lot of buffer properties. And over the years, we've acquired, part of being able to mitigate against any potential nuisances to have adequate buffer. And if you look on this map and you look at all those yellow properties, those are all Mascaro-owned related properties around the orange area, which is the landfill. And we are probably buffered better than any landfill that I'm aware of. Thank you.
Okay, last call for questions. All right. Anything further from DEP? No? All right, well, thank you again for coming out. I really appreciate it. Again, I really encourage folks, if you have a comment that you would like to submit for DEP to include in its review process, please take one of our handouts here. It has all the information on how you would do that. And if you have any questions, I've got folks right here that can help you out. So thank you all so much for coming out. Have a great rest of your night and a safe trip home.